تعجل بالقرآن من قبل أن يقضى إليك وحيه وقل رب زدني علما.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. So we got up to the section where it was going to mention the wives and the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So to begin with then, the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is of course Khadijah bint Khuwaylid radiyallahu anha, and then there is also Sauda bint Jamā'ah al-Qurashiyah, then also Aisha, the daughter of Abu Bakr as-Sideeq, also Hafsa, the daughter of Umar ibn al-Khattab, also Zainab bint Khuzaymah, also Salama, Hind, the daughter of Abu Umayyah al-Qurashiyah al-Makhzumiyah. Then there is Zainab bint Jahsh, then Juwayriyah bint al-Harith, and Habiba Ramlah bint Abi Sufyan, also Safiyyah, the daughter of Huyay ibn Akhtab, and also Maymunah, the daughter of Al-Harith Al-Hilaliyah. Those are all the names of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And from his children, as we mentioned, there were 3 sons and 4 daughters. Anybody find the names?
Yes. Al-Qasim, Abdullah, Ibrahim. And daughters Zainab, Kulthum, Ruqayya, and the last one Fatima radiyallahu anha.
Correct. So Al-Qasim, Abdullah, Ibrahim, those were the 3 sons of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then from the daughters, Zainab, Ruqayya, Kulthum, and Fatima. And all of the children of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam died during his lifetime, except Fatima radiyallahu anha, who died after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam by 6 months or so. So looking at this in more detail, here Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah mentions وَيَتَوَلَّوْنَ أَزْوَاجَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم أمهات المؤمنين. أمهات المؤمنين هذه صفة لأزواج، فأزواج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أمهات لنا في الإكرام والاحترام والصلة. So the wives of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, they are our mothers in terms of their nobility and the respect that we have for them. They are our mothers. That's why we say they are the mothers of the believers. فنحن نتولاهن بالنصرة والدفاع عنهن واعتقاد أنهن أفضل أزواج أهل الأرض لأنهن زوجات الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. So we have allegiance to the wives of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم in aiding them and defending them, and having the belief that they are the best of the wives of anyone, the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. ويؤمنون بأنهن أزواجه في الآخرة. And we believe that they are his wives in the afterlife too. That they are his wives in the afterlife too. لأحاديث وردت في ذلك. And there are ahadith, different narrations that highlight that his wives in this world are also his wives in the afterlife. Then Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah mentions وخصوصا خديجة رضي الله عنها أكثر أولاده, and especially Khadijah رضي الله عنها, who is the mother of the majority of the children of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was the mother of all of his children except his son Ibrahim. Khadija bint Khuwaylid, that is her name. Khadija bint Khuwaylid, the daughter of Khuwaylid. تزوجها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أول ما تزوج. So the first time the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم got married, his first wife was Khadija رضي الله عنها. وكان عمره حين ذاك 25 سنة وعمرها 40 سنة. And he was 25 years old at that time, and she was 40 years old at that time. And there are some other narrations in the seerah, some other stories suggesting she was younger, but the actual and accurate statement regarding that appears to be this, that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam was 25 at the time and she was 40 at the time radiyallahu anha. وكانت امرأة عاقلة, and it is known that she was a very intelligent woman. She was a very intelligent woman. وانتفع بها صلى الله عليه وسلم انتفاعا كثيرا, and the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم benefited greatly from her. لأنها امرأة ذات عقل وذكاء, because she was a woman who was smart and intelligent. ولم يتزوج عليها أحدا, and the Prophet ﷺ did not marry any other wife whilst he was married to Khadijah radiallahu anha. She was his only wife during the time of his marriage to her. فكانت كما قال المؤلف ابن تيمية أكثر أولاده. So as Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned, she was the mother of the majority of his children, all of his children except Ibrahim. البنين والبنات. ولم يقل المؤلف أولاده لأن من أولاده من ليس منها وهو إبراهيم فإنه كان من ماريا القبطية. So the only child of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who was not born from Khadijah was his son Ibrahim, because his mother was Maria the Coptic al-Qibtiyya. وأولاده الذين من خديجة هم ابنان وأربع بنات. And as we just mentioned, the children that he had with Khadijah radiallahu anha were 6, 2 sons and 4 daughters. Al-Qasim, then Abdullah, and he is known as At-Tayyib, At-Tahir sometimes, and Zainab, and then Kulthum, and then Fatima, and then Ruqayya. And then from Maria al-Qibtiyya, Ibrahim. 7 children in total. The oldest of his children, or from his sons, was Al-Qasim. And the oldest of his daughters was Zainab. Then Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned, وَأَوَّلُ مَنْ آمَنَ بِهِ وَعَاضَدَهُ عَلَى أَمْرِهِ, that she was the first person to believe in him and to support him and aid him. Khadijah radiallahu anha, she was the first person to believe in him and to aid him and support him. لا شك أنها أول من آمن به. Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala says there is no doubt that she was the first one to believe in the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لما جاءها وأخبرها بما رأى في غار حراء قالت كلا والله لا يخزيك الله أبدا. Because when the revelation first began, when Jibreel alayhi salam first came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the cave, the messenger came back to who? Who was the first person he came back to and told about that? His wife Khadijah radiallahu anha. And she believed in him. She was the first person that he told. وَآمَنَتْ بِهِ. She believed in that revelation that came to him and what he told her. وَذَهَبَتْ بِهِ إِلَى وَرَقَةٍ ibn Nawfal وَقَصَّتْ عَلَيْهِ الْخَبَرِ. And she took the Prophet ﷺ to Waraqah ibn Nawfal and she told him what had happened to the Prophet ﷺ. And Waraqah said to them, إِنَّ هَذَا النَّامُوسِ الَّذِي كَانَ يَنزِلُ عَلَى مُوسَى. That this is the namus, يعني صاحب السر. This is the one with those secrets, talking about the revelation that used to come to Musa alayhi salam. And now he's coming to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فآمن به ورقة. He also accepted. ولهذا نقول أول من آمن به من النساء خديجة ومن الرجال ورقة ibn Nawfal. And that's why Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen says that the first person to believe in the messenger from the women was Khadijah, and the first man to believe in him was therefore based upon this Waraqah ibn Nawfal. And then Ibn Taymiyyah said وَعَاضَدَهُ عَلَى أَمْرِهِ, that Khadijah radiallahu anha supported and aided the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam upon his affair. أي ساعده ومن تدبر السيرة وجد لأم المؤمنين خديجة رضي الله عنها من معاضدة أو من معاضدة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ما لم يحصل لغيرها من نسائه. And if you look at the seerah, you will find a level of support that Khadijah radiallahu anha gave to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that nobody else did. A level of support that Khadijah gave to the messenger you do not find from others, from the other women, from his other wives. Then Ibn Taymiyyah said وَكَانَ لَهَا مِنْهُ الْمَنْزِلَةِ الْعَالِيَةِ, that she had a very high status in the eyes of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The messenger held a high status in her, or the way that he thought of her and how he considered her. He considered her with a lofty status and believed her to be of that status. حتى إنه كان يذكرها بعد موتها صلوات الله وسلامه عليه, to the extent that even after she died, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would remember her and mention her. ويرسل بالشيء إلى صديقاتها ويقول إنها كانت وكانت وكان لي منها ولد. And even after her death, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to send things to her friends, to the friends of Khadijah. Used to send them things and say that Khadijah was so good and she was such and such, and I had my children from her. He would mention good things about her and send things to her friends. And so this shows how high Khadijah radiallahu anha had as a status. فَكَانَ يُثْنِي عَلَيْهَا, he used to praise her. وَهَذَا يَدُلُّ عَلَى عِظَمِ مَنْزِلَتِهَا عِنْدَ الرَّسُولِ صلى الله عليه وسلم. So that indicates the great status she had with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how he viewed her with that great love and respect. Then after that, Ibn Taymiyyah says, وَالصِّدِّيقَةِ bint as-Sideeq radiyallahu anha. He then goes on to speak about Aisha radiyallahu anha, as-Siddiqah. As-Siddiqah, the daughter of as-Siddeeq, Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhuma. أما كونها صديقة, as for Aisha radiyallahu anha being called Siddiqah, then that is because فَلِكَمَالِ تَصْدِيقِهَا لِرَسُولِ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم, because of the perfection of how she believed in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how completely she believed in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَلِكَمَالِ صِدْقِهَا فِي مُعَامَلَتِهِ, and because of her truthfulness and how genuine she was in her behavior with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَصَبْرِهَا عَلَى مَا حَصَلَ مِنَ الْأَذَى فِي قِصَّةِ الْإِفْكِ, and the level of patience she showed during the time when she was being accused and fabrications were being made against her, accused of adultery and affairs, and how patient she was during those times. ويدلك على صدقها وصدق إيمانها بالله أنه لما نزلت براءتها قالت إني لا أحمد غير الله، وهذا يدل على كمال إيمانها وصدقها. So when those fabrications and stories were being made against her, in the end Allah revealed an ayah proving her innocence. When that ayah was revealed, when the innocence was revealed in the Quran regarding her, she said, إِنِّي لَا أَحْمَدُ غَيْرَ اللَّهِ, that I do not thank or praise anyone other than Allah. And this shows her level of perfection in Iman and her truthfulness in that. So that's why she was known as Siddiqah, the one upon truthfulness. And as for her father, then we know he is also known as as-Siddeeq, Abu Bakr as-Siddeeq radiyallahu anhu. فكذلك أيضا فإن أباها رضي الله عنه هو الصديق في هذه الأمة. Her father, Abu Bakr as-Siddeeq radiyallahu anhu, he is the Siddiq of this ummah. He is the Siddiq of this ummah. بل صديق الأمم كلها. As Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen says, even you can say he is the Siddiq of all of the nations. All of the people, the followers of the prophets that came before, he is the Siddiq of everyone, of all the nations. لأن هذه الأمة أفضل الأمم. Now one easy way to understand that is, this ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the best of all of the nations. And so if he is the Siddiq of this ummah, and this ummah is better than all the previous ummahs, he is therefore the Siddiq of all the other nations that came before us too. And the reason why they mentioned that Abu Bakr was known as as-Siddeeq, the one who was upon that truthfulness and believed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam completely. Anybody know why? Why is Abu Bakr as-Siddeeq known as as-Siddeeq?
Because when I think when Rasul comes and said the wahy come to him, and somebody told Abu Bakr as-Siddeeq, sorry, in the Isra and Mi'raj, people comes to Abu Bakr said, "Do you hear what your friend said?" They said, they said he told he went in one night from Mecca to Al-Quds. So Abu Bakr said, I believe him even if he said he go to the sky after that.
So it's about the night of Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. On that night the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was taken up to the heavens. In one night he went to Al-Bayt al-Maqdis and then all the way up to the heavens, to the highest of the heavens. And Allah spoke to him and the prayer was commanded, and then he returned, all of that in one night. So then the disbelievers, the kuffar, they came to Abu Bakr as-Siddeeq radiyallahu anhu, and they said to him, have you heard what your companion is saying? Meaning Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Have you heard what he's saying? He thinks he went all the way up to the heavens and came back in one night. He thinks he did that. Have you heard what he's saying? He's saying that he went all the way to the heavens and everything and came back in one night. Abu Bakr as-Siddeeq, when he heard this from them, they were obviously trying to mock the Prophet ﷺ and say this is a lie. And Abu Bakr as-Siddeeq, he said, I believe the messenger in even more than that. I believe the revelation comes down to him from the heavens. So when he gave that reply to them saying, what you're saying to me right now, that's not affecting me. I believe in even more than that. I believe him. If that's what he said, then I believe him. And I believe in even more than that on top. So when he gave them that strong answer, no hesitancy, that I believe him if he said that. And I believe him in even more than that. Revelation comes to him. So then he became known as as-Siddeeq, the one who is the truthful one, believes the messenger in that truthfulness. So that is Aisha as-Siddeeqah, the daughter of Abu Bakr as-Siddeeq radiyallahu anhuma. Then Ibn Taymiyyah said, التي قال فيها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. This is one of the virtues that the messenger mentioned about Aisha radiyallahu anha. فضل عائشة على النساء كفضل الثريد على سائر الطعام. That the virtue of Aisha over other women is like the virtue of al-tharid over the other types of food. Al-tharid, it's a type of food. Allah alam if anybody eats that now or if it's known to people, but it's a certain type of food. And it was known to be better than other types of food. So the messenger gave that example. Aisha is better than the other women, like this food that was known to the people as being a high quality type of food that they desired, al-tharid, how that is better than other types of food. Aisha is better than the other women, highlighting her virtue. And does that mean that Aisha radiyallahu anha is better than all the other wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam then? Because the messenger said the virtue of Aisha upon the other women is like the food al-tharid over the other types of food. So does that mean Aisha is better than Khadijah radiyallahu anha? No. The messenger said she is better than the other women. You're saying no?
Maybe because when he described that when Khadijah is not alive, she did when he said that.
So the wording of the narration, فَضْلُ عَائِشَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ كَفَضْلِ الثَّرِيدِ عَلَى سَائِرِ الطَّعَامِ. It's an open-ended wording. It's an open wording. That Aisha is better than all the other women. Which would seem to indicate that generally speaking then, upon the generality of this narration, that she is better than all the women, including Khadijah radiallahu anha. That's what the wording would seem to possibly indicate, because it's an open and general wording. But some scholars, they said Khadijah is an exception. She is not included in this narration, and Aisha is not better than Khadijah. They said one explanation is this, that the messenger said this during the time of Aisha radiallahu anha, and at that time Khadijah radiallahu anha had already passed away. So it's as though the messenger was saying Aisha is better than all the other women who are here now, who are alive now. Aisha is better than all these other women. Khadijah had already passed away, so some scholars say he didn't intend Khadijah in that. He intended the other wives and the women who were there right now. So there is a narration also, another hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ said, كَمُلَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ كَثِيرٌ وَلَمْ يَكْمُلْ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ إلا آسية امرأة فرعون ومريم بنت عمران وخديجة بنت خويلد وفضل عائشة على النساء كفضل الثريد على سائر الطعام. That's the full version, where the Prophet ﷺ said there are many from the men who got to perfection. Many from the men got to the high levels and got to the perfection. But very few women got to those levels. But then he mentions some who did. He says very few women got to those high levels. Except, then he mentions a few who did. One of them is Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh. The Pharaoh at the time of Musa alayhi salam, she became Muslim. She became Muslim in the end. The wife of the Pharaoh at the time of Musa alayhi salam, the Pharaoh who was trying to kill Musa, his wife Asiya became Muslim in the end. And she is mentioned in this hadith as being one of those high level, high respect and ranking women. Another one, Maryam, the daughter of Imran, meaning the mother of Isa alayhi salam. The mother of Isa alayhi salam reached that high level from the women. And the third one mentioned is Khadijah bint Khuwaylid. Khadijah mentioned as being up there at those top levels. Then the messenger said, and the virtue of Aisha upon the women is like the food over the other types of food. This would therefore indicate, upon the general wording of it, that Aisha is being mentioned as superior to all other women, including these others, Asiya and Maryam and Khadijah. But the scholars have differed over a few issues. Can we say Aisha radiallahu anha is better than all the other women, or are there a few issues to take into consideration? Many scholars said there are a few issues to take into consideration though. Aisha is definitely at the high level, but there's a few things to remember. One of them is that Aisha radiallahu anha is not better than Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in terms of lineage, nasab. In terms of the nasab, in terms of the lineage, Fatima is better because she is the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in terms of lineage, you could have that issue there. She is more noble than Aisha in terms of the lineage. Fatima is. Also, another thing to take into consideration is that there are many narrations talking about Khadijah radiallahu anha, and many scholars they mention about Khadijah. So who is better than Aisha or Khadijah? It's basically down to them, down to Aisha and Khadijah. Who is better from the women between them two? قال بعض العلماء خديجة أفضل لأن لها مزايا لم تلحقها عائشة فيها. Some scholars they said their opinion is that Khadijah radiallahu anha is better than Aisha, and they say that's because Khadijah has certain virtues that Aisha doesn't have. Like, for example, the fact that she was the first person to believe in the Messenger. She was the first wife of the Messenger. She helped and aided and supported the Messenger in the most difficult times, which were the beginning times of Islam. All of those things Khadijah did. Aisha didn't do those things. Aisha became or was the wife of the Messenger much later on. In those early difficult and testing times and trials, it was Khadijah who was there at the beginning. So the scholars say all of that Khadijah did at the start of Islam, Aisha didn't do any of those things. So because of those reasons, Khadijah is more virtuous. That is the opinion of some scholars. وَقَالَ بَعْضُ الْعُلَمَاء, but other scholars they said, بل عائشة أفضل لهذا الحديث. They said no, Aisha is better, and their proof is this hadith that we just read. This hadith where the Messenger mentioned the women who got to the high levels of perfection, but then at the end said Aisha is superior to them, like the tharid is superior to other food. So they said Aisha is better. And also because they said Aisha did certain things that Khadijah didn't do. Like, for example, what is one of the biggest things that Aisha radiallahu anha did that Khadijah radiallahu anha did not? Narrations, hadith. Aisha radiallahu anha narrated over 1,000 hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Over 1,000 hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Khadijah radiallahu anha did not narrate. Aisha radiallahu anha did.
I think the half of our religion take it from Aisha, as one of the Khulafa, I think, said, take the half of your religion from this woman.
Perhaps there are narrations like that, because there's only a few companions who narrated more than 1,000 hadith. Only a few. Only a handful. And Aisha is one of them. She was known as a scholar. The men used to go to her to ask her questions about Islam. That's how knowledgeable she was. She was a scholar. Even some of the men used to go to her to ask her questions. So she was known for her knowledge. And over 1,000 hadith. Khadijah radiallahu anha was not known for that reason. So some scholars, they said these are some of the reasons why Aisha radiallahu anha should be better. And there's a third opinion. So the first opinion they say Khadijah. The second opinion they say Aisha. The third opinion, فصل بعض أهل العلم فقال إن لكل منهما مزية لم تلحقها الأخرى فيها. Some of them said, I think we mentioned it a while back, it's like comparing apples and pears. You cannot compare the two, they say. Each one of them is at the high level for different reasons, for different virtues. You can't compare them and say which one is better. That's like comparing, as we say, apples and pears. It's two different things. They are both at the top level for individual reasons, and they cannot be compared. You cannot compare them like that. Just like apples and pears, you can't compare which is better. They are different fruits. They have different tastes. They have differences. You cannot compare them. So some scholars say you can't compare them. They are both at that high level. Because Khadijah radiallahu anha, her virtues are connected to the beginning of Islam and the revelation. And Aisha radiallahu anha, her virtues are connected to the end. She was there at the end when the Prophet ﷺ died. When the Messenger was in his final illness, he had his head on the lap of Aisha radiallahu anha, and he was putting his cloth over his face and removing his cloth from the pain and the difficulty he was experiencing at the end, and he was in the lap of Aisha radiallahu anha. So she was there at the end. Khadijah radiallahu anha was there at the beginning. So they have virtues at different ends of the revelation. And so both of them are at that high level, and you cannot compare and say which one is better. That is what Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned, and many scholars mentioned about that. Then after that, these are all points of Aqidah. This is our Aqidah. So that's what we believe regarding the wives of the Messenger and his children. Then وَيَتَبَرَّؤُونَ مِنْ طَرِيقَةِ الرَّوَافِضِ الَّذِينَ يُبْغِضُونَ الصَّحَابَةَ وَيَسُبُّونَهُم. And we declare our innocence from the way of the Rāfidah, the Shia, who hate the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and they abuse them and curse them. The Shia, the Rāfidah, they hate the companions of the Messenger and they curse them. الروافض طائفة غلاة في علي بن أبي طالب آل البيت. The Rāfidah, they are a sect who exaggerate in terms of which companion? Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu. They exaggerate regarding him and regarding the family of the Prophet. But they hate other companions. وَهُمْ مِنْ أَضَلِّ أَهْلِ الْبِدَعِ. They are from the most misguided groups of innovation, the Rāfidah Shia. وَأَشَدُّهُمْ كُرْهًا لِلصَّحَابَةِ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ. And from all the groups of innovation, the one group that hates the companions the most is the Rāfidah. وَمَنْ أَرَادَ مَعْرِفَةَ مَا هُمْ عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الضَّلَالِ فَلْيَقْرَأْ فِي كُتُبِهِمْ وَفِي كُتُبِ مَنْ رَدَّ عَلَيْهِمْ. And if you read their books and the books of the scholars who refuted them, you will see how misguided the Rāfidah are. وَسُمُّوا رَوَافِض. Why are they called the Rāfidah? The reason is لأنهم رفضوا زيد ibn Ali ibn al-Husayn ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib عندما سألوه عن أبي بكر وعمر فأثنى عليهما وقال هما وزيرا جدي. There is a story that occurred with Zayd, the son of Ali, the son of Al-Husayn, the son of Ali. So Zayd is what compared to Ali ibn Abi Talib? The son of Ali ibn Abi Talib was Al-Husayn. The grandson of Ali ibn Abi Talib was also called Ali, one of his grandsons. And his son was Zayd. So Zayd was the great grandson of Ali ibn Abi Talib. They came to Zayd, the great grandson of Ali ibn Abi Talib. They came to him and they said to him, what do you say about Abu Bakr and Umar? What's your position on Abu Bakr and Umar? And this is the great grandson of Ali ibn Abi Talib, who they love and they raise. They went to ask him, what do you say about him? And he told them that Abu Bakr and Umar radiyallahu anhuma, they were the two ministers of my grandfather, of my great-grandfather Ali bin Abi Talib, meaning he praised them. They were wanting him to refute them and to reject them. He praised them, and so they rejected him. They rejected him and turned away from him. That's what Rāfidah means in Arabic. Rāfidah, to reject and to turn away. They rejected and turned away from him when he praised Abu Bakr and Umar, so they became known as the rejectors. Those who turned away, the Rawafid. That is the reason. Then on the other hand, you have a group known as Nawāsib. فهم الذين ينصبون العداء لآل البيت ويقدحون فيهم ويسبونهم فهم على النقيض من الروافض. There's another group of the people of deviation known as the Nawāsib. The Nawāsib, and they are the opposite of the Rāfidah. The Nawāsib hate and have enmity to the family of the Prophet ﷺ. They hate and they have enmity to the family of the Prophet ﷺ, and they curse them and they abuse them. فالروافض اعتدوا على الصحابة بالقلوب والألسن. So the Rāfidah, they transgressed against the companions with their hearts, with the hatred and with their tongues, the abuse and the cursing. ففي القلوب يبغضون الصحابة ويكرهونهم. In their hearts they hate the companions, ويكرهونهم. They have hatred, detest the companions. إلا companions. So if you curse them, it's as though you're cursing the revelation that they are teaching us to. They are the ones who taught us from the messenger. So your curse of the companions is not just in the companions. It means, in effect, you are cursing the messenger too. And you are cursing the revelation too. That is the level of severity. And if you're cursing the revelation, it means, in essence, in reality, it is as though it's a curse to Allah as well then. فانظر ماذا يترتب من الطوام الكبرى على سب الصحابة رضي الله عنهم. So look at the great calamities that occur, that arise as a consequence of cursing the companions. That in reality you are then cursing the messenger, and in reality then you are cursing the revelation, and therefore you're cursing Allah. وَنَحْنُ نَتَبَرَّأْ مِنْ طَرِيقَةِ هَؤُلَاءِ. And we declare our innocence from their methodology. الروافض الذين يسبون الصحابة ويبغضونهم ونعتقد أن محبتهم فرض. So we reject the way of the Rāfidah. We do not hate the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. We love them and we believe it's part of our Aqidah to love the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. That it's an obligation to do so. وَأَنَّ الْكَفْ عَنْ مَسَاوِئِهِمْ فَرْض. And that we have to hold back from ever talking about any evils of the companions or any shortcomings that they may have fallen into, any issues that occurred. We believe that we do not speak of those and open up those kinds of issues. Whatever occurred from the companions or between the companions, we leave that aside. We do not open up that, but the companions did this and the companions did that and this story and that story. We don't open up those topics. قلوبنا ولله الحمد مملوءة من محبتهم. Our hearts are filled with love for the companions. لما كانوا عليه من الإيمان والتقوى ونشر العلم ونصرة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Because of how they supported and aided the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the iman and taqwa they had in their hearts. So we love the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we don't speak about any shortcomings as you see the people of innovation. They say, oh, but there's a story one time one of the companions did this and did that. Some shortcoming or some story of something bad. We don't do that. We don't start making stories like that and start mentioning things like that. If any shortcomings occurred from the companions, we leave that aside. They are the ones who Allah said, Radiyallahu anhum. Allah is pleased with them. So why are you sitting there trying to say, oh, but the companions did this and this story and that story? Allah has told us in the Quran, He's pleased with them. Radiyallahu anhum. Allah is pleased with them. So why are you sitting there otherwise? Why are you sitting there trying to say, but there's a story, the companion did this and did that? Allah has told us He is pleased with them. And that is our position. We love the companions and we do not have anything in our hearts against them. And we do not try to use them as examples and evidence for our shortcomings, which is what some people do. Some of the people of innovation, if they have some shortcomings, some issue, they say, well, even the companion used to do this or that and there's a story. We don't do that. Don't try and justify your shortcomings and your errors by saying, but there's a story, even the companion did this or did that. That is false. That is not the way of Ahlul Sunnah. It is not from our way to start saying, but even the companions did this and even the companions did that, to try and justify some wrong or some position of ours. And that is incorrect. And also we declare our innocence and our freedom from the Nawāsib. Who are the Nawāsib? We said they are the ones who curse the family of the Prophet ﷺ. So they are the opposite of the Rāfidah. The Rāfidah, they curse the companions, but they have allegiance to the family of the Messenger. But the Nawāsib, they curse the family of the Prophet ﷺ. وهؤلاء على عكس الروافض الذين يغلون في آل البيت حتى يخرجونهم عن طور البشرية إلى طور العصمة والولاية. So the Rāfidah, they exaggerate regarding the family of the Messenger. They even start saying that the family of the Messenger weren't humans, they were superior to humans and other things like that. أما النواسب, but the Nawāsib that we're talking about now, فقابلوا البدع ببدعة. They had an opposing type of innovation. فلما رأوا الرافضة يغلون في آل البيت. When they saw that the Rāfidah have exaggeration and extremism with the family of the Messenger, قالوا إذن, they said in that case, نبغض آل البيت ونسبهم, that we hate. They said our position is we hate the family of the Messenger and their lineage. وَدَائِمًا يَكُونُ الْوَسَطُ هُوَ خَيْرُ الْأُمُورِ. But always the balanced middle path is the correct way. So we do not have exaggeration in the family of the Messenger, neither do we curse them. We love the family of the Messenger and we hold respect for them. And the final thing we'll mention today here, what we just briefly touched upon, وَيُمْسِكُونَ عَمَّا شَجَرَ بَيْنَ الصَّحَابَةِ. That we don't speak about any issues that occurred between the companions, any disagreements that occurred between them, any shortcomings that occurred between them. We don't sit here talking about those stories. فالصحابة رضي الله عنهم وقعت بينهم بعد مقتل عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنهم نزاعات. After the death of Umar ibn al-Khattab, there were some conflicts that occurred between the companions. واشتد الأمر بعد مقتل عثمان. And after the killing of Uthman radiallahu anhu, those conflicts grew deeper and they occurred. فوقع بينهم ما وقع. ومما أدى إلى القتال. So whatever occurred between them, some issues occurred and some fighting occurred. وهذه القضايا مشهورة, and those events are known. وقد وقعت بلا شك عن تأويل واجتهاد, and those issues they occurred without doubt because of their interpretation of things. The companions, they had interpretation of certain affairs and their ijtihad on certain affairs, and then those disagreements they occurred, and each one of them they thought they were upon the truth. كل منهم يظن أنه على حق فلا يمكن أن نعم واعتقادهم أنهم على حق لا يستلزم أن يكونوا قد أصابوا الحق. So all of them, they thought they were upon the truth, and it does not mean that all of them were definitely upon the truth. Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen mentions the example, إن عائشة والزبير بن العوام قاتلا عليا رضي الله عنهم أجمعين وهم يعتقدون أنهم على باطل وأن عليا على حق. So there were the stories that everybody knows about regarding Aisha and Zubair ibn al-Awam and Ali radiallahu anhu, and the affairs that occurred, and each believing they are upon the truth, but we do not delve into those affairs. لكن إذا كانوا مخطئين نحن نعلم أنهم لن يقدموا على هذا الأمر إلا عن اجتهاد. Even if they made a mistake, we know they only did that truly believing to be upon the truth. And we know there's a hadith, إذا حكم الحاكم فاجتهد ثم أصاب فله أجران وإذا حكم فاجتهد ثم أخطأ فله أجر. That if the one who judges makes a real ijtihad and strives and comes to a conclusion, but he gets it right, he gets 2 rewards. And in that case, when they are really sincere but they get it wrong, they still get 1 reward. That is what we believe for the companions. That's where we'll stop then for today. From that section, we'll carry on from the next section from next week, insha'Allah ta'ala. There's a little bit more left regarding the companions and the seerah. And then after that, we'll finish that next time, and then we'll move on to the next chapter, which is about the karamat al-awliya.